Many newer distilleries source their whiskey while they age their own stuff kind of set for prime time, but by that point they've already established a brand taste, and what they're making might be very different. So very few of them actually make it through that trial period, and very few of them do it as well as Virginia Distillery Company. This is Courage and Conviction. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary, where I do the research to try to teach you a little something about what you're drinking. Today I want to talk to you about Courage and Conviction. Now this is a whiskey that I first tried at this event called the Grand Dram in Westboro, Massachusetts at Julio's Liquors. And that was February, which was, it was already 2 months ago. I don't know. I can't really tell if time is going by fast or if it's going by really, really slow. But either way, February feels like a while ago. But I was at this event and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different expressions of whiskey to try. And this was one of them. So I met the representative here and I talked to them about not this whiskey, but about a different one, their American blended malt. And when I tried it, I said, hey, you know what, that's actually pretty good. And she said, oh, well, do you want to try something a little different, something secret underneath the table? And the answer to that is always yes, by the way. So she pulled this thing out, and we were talking a little bit about what I do, so I'm sure that got me a little bit of an in. And back in February, I got to try this. Now, this didn't release until April, so one of the perks of the job, I suppose. But even after dozens and dozens of whiskeys on my palate, I tried this, and it was still really, really good. And so I gave her my card, and I'm sure I was a little bit intoxicated when we made our connection, but that's okay, because about a month and a half later, they contacted me, said, hey, do you want to review our whiskey on your channel? And told them yes. So thank you guys for the bottle. But let me talk a little bit more about this. So Courage and Conviction, as I mentioned, came out at the beginning of April. So if you get your hands on this, you're still like really on top of things. And it comes from a saying by this guy, Dr. Moore, where he said, have the courage of your convictions. And this is a saying that he would say frequently. And, we hear this story occasionally. There's something that inspires somebody and it ends up becoming the name of the bottle or something to do with the bottle. But that's where this goes. So anyway, nothing really to it. This distillery opened up in 2015 and they turned on their stills. Now they kind of, as I mentioned at the beginning, they sourced some whiskey, but they didn't source it from MGP or from somewhere in Kentucky. They sourced it from up in Scotland and they got all this malted barley. And they made whiskey out of that, they took whiskey from that and then they added their own 2-year-old whiskey, which they had been already distilled and aging, and blended them together and made their own thing. Put them in a second barrel and, the rest is history. And then they made this. This is their 100% distillate. They mill, they mash, they ferment, they distill. They do all the things in their own distillery by 7 people. And so 7 people is not very much, in case you don't realize that. That's just not very much to run a distillery. And so much so that when they get to bottling, they have to bring on some of their marketing people occasionally to come back and help bottle. So I love hearing stuff like that. I love covering smaller distilleries because there's always a unique, there's character to it, like everybody's chipping in, everybody's kind of believing in the brand. And I love hearing that. So Courage and Conviction, this guy right here, this is made from 50%, well, it's 100% malted barley, and it is 50% ex-bourbon casks, it's 25% ex-sherry casks, there's Oloroso, Fino, and Pedro Jimenez, and then there's also 25% cuvee casks. Now, cuvee is red wine. It kind of gives a fruity flavor, of course. So let's talk about the nosing and the tasting of this whiskey. Now, as you can see, I drank quite a bit of this. I actually really, really like this one. And I was having a little bit of this before the stream, the video here. And, I've found that the flavor actually has an extremely long finish. I don't normally talk about finish because I kind of drink on the video. Maybe I'll mention it if it's something that I've picked up before. But, I don't know how long this video's already been going, but at least a couple of minutes. And, I can still taste it. It's good stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and give this a nose. All right, so the nose on this has some classic bourbon notes. Let's just get those out of the way. You got butterscotch, you got vanilla, you have caramel, right? So other than those, you're getting red raspberry. You're getting kind of like a cherry kind of flavor. So think like red berries. All right, that's it really for the nose, honestly. There's not much more, although those are pretty nice things. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. Cheers. Mm. So red fruits like those raspberries, those cherries, and kind of that refreshing kind of just, it's like summery, you know? It's indicative of kind of like late spring, early summer. All the berries are in season. You're just strawberries and raspberries and cherries, just good stuff. There's a little bit of a barrel spice going on in there, a little bit of caramel, some vanilla. Obviously those are coming off of the bourbon barrels, and the berries are coming off the red wine, possibly the sherry. But other than that, there's a little bit of like cocoa, you know, like chocolate, and that's about it. You know, I mean, that's plenty. It's a very unique taste, honestly. So speaking of unique tastes, let's go ahead and talk about this whiskey. So overall, I think it's probably pretty easy to tell that I like this one. Wouldn't have agreed to review it if I didn't like it, and obviously wouldn't have made that connection had I not enjoyed it. So it's always good to taste something first before kind of interacting with a distillery, because it's tough to not like a whiskey and not review it afterwards. But luckily that's only happened a couple of times. This time, this is really good. Here's the problem. If there's got to be a problem, this is what it is. Because of our current climate, the growth of this whiskey is going to be slow. So it's going to be hard to find on the shelf. Now, the good news is that they do offer online sales for it. And I'll put a link down in the description if you want to go check it out. Here's the other part. And, you know, I'm always of the opinion that there's no good news, there's no bad news, there's just news. In this case, it's an expensive bottle. It's $70 and then probably another $10 to ship it or so. So if you want a bottle of this, it's going to cost you $80. Now, this is an American whiskey. This is in a time where a lot of businesses are having a lot of trouble. In my opinion, if I saw this on a shelf at $70, I would probably be a little bit hesitant to pick it up, but that's me being hesitant to spend $70 on an American whiskey. So here's what I'll tell you. If you choose to spend this money on this bottle, you will like this whiskey. This is a good whiskey. It tastes really good. It's just whether that's an amount of money that you personally want to spend, and I can't tell you if that's something that you should spend. So, I don't think that it's overpriced. I just think it's expensive. All right, anyway, so if you are enjoying these kind of videos, I want you to check out some of the other craft videos. You can click a link right here, or if you are interested in seeing whatever YouTube thinks that you should watch from my channel, check it out right there. And check out the Patreon, because there's all kinds of new stuff there. I've recently redone my tiers, and it's worth checking out. So thank you very much for joining me here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers.